How many people do you know who struggle with their health? Chances are, whether they show it or not, most of the people in your life do. And chances are, you're one of them. Whether you're dealing with anxiety, depression, endometriosis, acne, eczema, autoimmune, thyroid, Lyme, brain fog, fatigue, or any other symptom or condition, you're far from alone. Living with symptoms has become the new normal. So no more guessing games. It's time to get answers. Welcome to the Medical Medium Podcast. I'm Anthony William. Today, we're talking about mercury in seafood, mercury and other contaminations in fish. Maybe you're a fish eater. Are you concerned about how much fish you should eat? And what about if you're pregnant or breastfeeding or want to become pregnant? Is it okay to eat a whole bunch of fish or oily fish? And then what about fish oil? How many people are out there taking fish oil supplements? Why are fish a problem, and why is it advised out there to eat fish twice a week to keep good health? Why not eat fish every day? How about twice a day, 7 days a week? What could possibly go wrong? Fasten your seatbelts, we're going swimming with the fish. What, I'm in your way? Yeah. All right, there's plenty of room here to fish. Yeah. The dock has plenty of room. Ow, oh, you snagged me with a hook. Oh, it's in my arm. There you go. All right. Can I fish now? I need to catch 2 or 3 fish. I have guests coming tonight, and I want to make a homemade, I want to grill some fish, make a homemade dinner. And I'm looking for some sea bass. I want some striped bass. I just want something I can eat. Something oily. Yeah, oily fish. That's what I want. The oiliest fish. Oh, I just got a bite. Reeling it in. The ocean contains a tremendous amount of trace minerals. The ocean water is filled with trace minerals. The ocean is alive, vibrant, teeming with life. It's composed of living energy from trace minerals floating in the ocean. When you harvest sea salt, it's not just sodium. It's an abundance of trace minerals mixed with the sodium. Ocean minerals are living minerals. They're alive. When you swim in the ocean, you take a dip in the water. It's grounding. There's a reason why the ocean is grounding. It's a living force, energetically alive. The trace minerals are grounding. When you enter the ocean, when you start swimming, that grounding power that the minerals have diffuse negative energy inside the body. Negative energy is created by chaos, high stress. When someone's going through challenges, struggles, they're up against a lot, confrontation, they're dealing with a whole bunch of toxic crap, psychic energy, psychic attacks from other people, and regular attacks from other people, demands, responsibilities, conditions that people place upon people. The effects of all this starts to dissipate as you're slowly walking into the water. It's like a baptizing. As you're entering the water, all your sins are just going away, it feels. Everything you're up against, stress, hardship, problems, tends to just instantly start to fade away, for the moment anyway. What is it? Why? Because the trace minerals inside the living water are shocking your system. And then if you get submerged in the water where you're floating or treading water, in the ocean, you're surrounded by the ocean water filled with all these trace minerals, and something miraculous happens. You're taken away from it all. You're being neutralized. Yes, you're being neutralized. The grounding powers of the ocean are neutralizing the negative energy. There's something else in that water that's with you. And it's not the trace minerals. It's toxic heavy metals. As the toxic heavy metals are present in the ocean water and touch your body, all the trace minerals in the ocean water are helping to neutralize it. The mercury, neutralizing the mercury and other toxic heavy metals. Toxic heavy metals and trace minerals in the ocean don't mix well. One runs on chaos. Yep, you guessed it. That's the mercury. And one is grounding, neutralizing. That's right, the trace minerals. The mercury is destructive, chaotic, and there's a reason for that. It's been industrialized. It was mined and then industrialized and then released back into our oceans and waterways. The trace minerals, those are natural. They're not industrialized. They're living. They're part of the living earth, the water, the oceans. Both the mercury and the trace minerals that are naturally in the ocean don't run on the same frequency or the same charge, and they're not friends. Mercury is a radical, industrialized toxin. It's disrupting. It's ungrounding. It's a free radical, and it alters electrical frequencies that are in the living ocean, the living water, in our bodies as well. Wherever they are, mercury, whether it's in our air, ocean, or our body, is a free radical, rogue, causing harm. So what happens when mercury enters fish? Where does it go? Fish are born. They're born in the ocean. They harbor trace minerals. But at the same time, fish harbor toxic heavy metals such as mercury, an industrialized, rogue, destructive mineral. But there's a conflict inside of fish. The metals, like mercury, have a conflict against trace minerals. They have a clash. They battle each other. They fight each other. They have a conflict with each other. The trace minerals and the metals in fish, like mercury, cannot join together. They're supposed to be able to mingle. They're supposed to be able to come together and work together. Trace minerals all join together at different moments in time. They work off each other, but they can't work off of mercury, the industrialized, rogue, denatured metal. Instead, trace minerals naturally in the ocean react with the metals inside the fish. This reaction makes the trace minerals end up storing inside the muscle tissue of the fish, while the mercury and other toxic heavy metals end up in the oil, the fat of the fish. This makes the oil of the fish deficient of minerals when it's not supposed to be deficient in minerals. The oil and fat of fish is supposed to be high in trace minerals. Because toxic heavy metals are denatured, they've been industrialized. They take on a different shape. The metals aren't uniform. They're actually jagged. They're pointy. They're destructive, oddly shaped. And when the mercury particles take on an odd shape as they're floating in the ocean and then enter the fish, they pierce the oil and get trapped in it. The toxic heavy metals are less likely to be in the muscle tissue because that's where the trace minerals end up going. Because the trace minerals can't enter the oil anymore, because the jagged shapes of the industrialized metals such as mercury are ending up in the oil and fat, and a separation process occurs because they both can't join together or live together. As a result, the majority of the toxic heavy metals ends up in the oil and fat. The minority ends up in the muscle tissue. And then the majority of the trace minerals ends up in the muscle tissue. And the minority of the trace minerals end up in the fat or oil. In a nutshell, the mercury and other toxic heavy metals are sitting inside the oil and fat of the fish in a concentrated form. And the trace minerals, they're sitting in the muscle tissue of the fish. And because the mercury is sitting inside the fish oil, there becomes a void of trace minerals inside the fish oil. So that means fish oil itself becomes nutrient deficient because the mercury is repelling all of the trace minerals away from the oil. So the oil ends up taking all the toxic garbage. It soaks up everything from different chemicals, different contamination, different varieties of metals, and mercury. This is where mercury in the ocean denatures nature. And it's a problem because fish, the oil in fish and fat in fish is supposed to be high in trace minerals, and it's not. And where does this lead us? It leads us to eating fish. Yeah, everybody pretty much eats fish. Some people don't, but the majority of the people on this planet love fish. And then you hear out there, you hear it. It's like a whisper in the wind. Look out for oily fish. Look out for fish that are fatty. It's like, oily fish? Why? What? What's so bad? Why do I have to stop eating fish? And wait a minute, I'm pregnant and I'm not allowed to eat fish. My doctor says, look out for oily fish. But why? Why? For one, they're worried about mercury, but they don't know why mercury ends up in the oil of the fish. Less oily fish, less mercury. Interesting. I'm not saying mercury doesn't end up in the muscle of the fish. It does. There's some there. But the less oil and fat in the fish, the less mercury. Now, how does that work? Does the mercury just go into the fish and out of the fish if there's less oil? Yes, it does. Just like we covered in this podcast, the trace minerals and the heavy metals have a conflict. They repel each other. Trace minerals repel the mercury. Whatever oil and fat that's in the fish gets filled up with mercury, but because there's not a lot of oil or fat in some fish that are less oily, the mercury has nowhere to go. Only some will enter the muscle tissue of the fish. The majority of the mercury has nowhere to go, so it's going to leave the fish because the trace mineral content in the muscle is going to repel energetically, diffuse, send the mercury out of the fish. If you're somebody and you want to eat fish, and you want oily fish, then eat the smaller ones. Less oil, less chances of getting a lot of mercury in your system. The fish are young. It takes time to accrue the mercury inside the oil of the fish. Sardines, mackerel, anchovies, those are smaller oily fish. These fish are not going to be mercury free. It's not possible. They will contain some forms of mercury, some levels of mercury, but less than a larger oily fish. Recently, I saw a tuna that was advertised as mercury free. And I was like, what? And I shook my head. It was not mercury free. It's not possible for it to be mercury free. I don't know what planet the tuna came from, but it didn't come from planet Earth if it really was mercury free. But since it came from planet Earth, it's not mercury free. All right, yeah, you head down the freezer section, get the ice cream for tonight. I got to go get the tuna. Yeah. All right. Let me look in the canned tuna section. All right. Let's see. Okay. Ooh, what is this? This is mercury free. Tuna can. There's a little sign here that says mercury free tuna. Oh, this is great. I can't believe that we actually have mercury-free tuna on this planet now. All these years, everybody being so worried. It's mercury-free. Mercury is destructive in our bodies, causes mental health conditions, causes a variety of mental health symptoms and conditions. If someone's high in mercury inside their brain, they can have anything go wrong. And when mercury's inside our bodies, it feeds pathogens. It feeds viruses. Epstein-Barr, shingles, cytomegalovirus, HSV1, HSV2, HHV6, HHV7, the list goes on. Mercury feeds bugs. Viruses love mercury. They eat it, they crap it out, becomes a toxic byproduct of methylmercury, a neurotoxin, and then gives somebody neurological fatigue, and they get sick. And mercury oxidizes inside our body. So if mercury's inside our brain, it slowly oxidizes over time. And then symptoms of dementia, Alzheimer's occur. And when we eat a piece of fish that has fat in it, that has mercury inside the oil and fat of the fish, that oil and fat filled with mercury goes inside our body. And then that mercury knows fat really well. It's been living inside the fat of the fish. It then easily transfers into the fat inside your body and stores there. The fat inside our body oxidizes the mercury quickly. Mercury sits inside the fat and starts to rust and oxidize and break down and cause runoff. ADD, ADHD, bipolar, OCD, just a few things right there that happens with mercury and other toxic heavy metals. Now, look, for me, it makes me not want to take a fish oil supplement. I've never taken a fish oil supplement because I know better, but seriously, just hearing any of this, just knowing any of this tells me don't eat fish oil. But people take fish oil supplements every single day. Pregnant women take fish oil supplements every single day out there. Now, when you take a fish oil capsule filled with fish oil, what you're really taking is a concentrated form of mercury. Mercury, when it's in something and removed, becomes stronger in a different way. So what people don't realize, hey, this fish oil is mercury free because the company does this process, and this process eliminates any toxic heavy metals or mercury out of their fish oil. But that's impossible. Basically, what they're doing is they're removing mercury, but they're leaving the essence of mercury behind homeopathically. It turns it into a powerful methyl mercury. That methyl mercury enters the body quicker into organs, into the brain. This is different than when you're removing mercury out of a human body, out of a human living body made out of trace minerals. When you're properly removing mercury out of the body, the mercury that's left inside the body gets weaker and weaker because the human body is a living form made out of trace minerals. The more mercury that's built up in our bones, our brain, spleen, liver, pancreas, the bigger the imbalance and the more damage to bodily tissues and bodily functions occur. As we rid mercury from our body, our frequency changes. Mercury is an impediment. Our energy fields regenerate. The trace minerals inside our organs and blood grow stronger as the mercury grows weaker. This exchange only occurs in a living body, different than dead fish oil that's manipulated. To find out more, read Medical Medium Brain Saver. I'm hungry. What to eat? I can really go for a fish treat. But little do I know, the Mercury Man gave the human population a low blow. Oh boy, the Mercury Man has no soul. What does it matter? I like my fish battered. Why should I be so scared of an oily fish? But pregnant women should beware. Our babies should be free from menacing mercury that enters the fetus. I wish this earth was clean. I wonder what God thinks. And Jesus, man destroying our oceans. How are we giving up on this earth and losing devotion? We need to protect our ocean.
Original published medical medium information gets stolen and poached by podcast doctors, social media doctors, influencers, and medical clinics. Medical medium information has never yet been proven wrong by medical science and research. Instead, the opposite, only proven right and then taken from medical medium published material and used in the conventional and alternative health communities. Medical medium information continually sets the stage for medical science to understand chronic illness better. If you choose to share or use the original, unique content from the Medical Medium podcast, books, or Medical Medium social media, please cite where this information comes from, so others who see and learn of this information have a chance to know where it all originates, to give them an opportunity to heal, so they don't end up losing years of their life searching for answers like so many have before them. The Medical Medium information here on this podcast doesn't come from broken science, interest groups, medical funding with strings attached, botched research, lobbyists, internal kickbacks, persuaded belief systems, private panels of influencers, health field payoffs, trendy traps, or gathered bits and pieces of gimmicky confusion. Because chronic illness is exploding like never before in our modern day history, it takes a greater force than us down here. It takes a helping hand from above. Medical medium information has street cred. It's an organic movement of countless people around the world healing. More healing stories of real people not being paid to tell their life-changing experiences of rising out of the ashes of sickness and entering into the light of full recovery, getting their lives back and finally healing when nothing else in the world of health could move the needle and get them better. The information on this podcast is not man-made. It comes from above, from a higher source. Whatever you believe in, whether God, the universe, the light, or the creator, or if you believe in nothing at all, that we're just floating through space together on this rock, know that the information you hear on this podcast is separate from all the other noise out there. It comes from a different place, a pure, untampered with, advanced, clean, uncorrupted, original, primary source, a higher source, spirit of compassion.